One of the things that I think CROs struggle with the most is they have a really hard time thinking about anything outside of the close one number. All they care about is the close one number, and nothing else really matters. If you want to be like a CRO and not a VP of sales, this is one of the 3 biggest changes you can make, is being able to think more holistically about the business and seeing your role as generating enterprise value and not just hitting a sales number.
Io, my man, what's up, dude?
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you. Oh, you've got a good setup too, dude. Look at that. You've got the nice What camera are you using over there?
Like a Sony digital SLR.
Oh, okay. You got that too. Yeah, I've got the same. Okay. So you
I don't know what one it is, but this guy Neil Topinka, who's a Toronto dude, does like home studio setups for executives and like content folks, so he just like did it all for me.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I had my buddy come and like do that same thing with like the light and
Yeah. I've got
like
the key light up here, and actually I have a podcast setting. Like he set up a podcast setting for my room. Okay, Rafi, get out. Come on, go. My dog's just gonna sit here and bark the whole time. And so he set up the room so that like there you go.
Oh, do you have like buttons and stuff where you can like change the setup?
No, I don't. So I've seen it. I'm like, that looks cool, but I think it's overkill. But this is just like it's an Amazon, it's an Alexa setting. So it turns down my overhead lights so that the key light does more, and then like these lights are on a certain thing. So
dude, nice.
It's my podcast.
We did that with the I don't even want to say the name, but the A, because you know when you say it's just gonna be like, what's up? And yeah, I just stay like studio on, and then freaking it just like lights all this up. And dude, it's like so cool.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, dude, stoked to be chatting. And you're in Toronto. Do you ever like get out, come to Austin, or any of that stuff, or what?
Yeah, I was in Austin twice last year for conferences. I spoke at Pavilion's conference, and then I spoke at SaaS Open.
It's it's coming up actually. What is it? SaaS. What's his name puts it on?
Yeah.
I'm totally,
He's got a big YouTube thing.
I forget his name, but he's got like a media and finance company, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm totally saying Nathan Lotka.
Nathan Lotka. Yeah.
Yeah, Nathan. That's Nathan, man. Yeah. Well, dude, excited to have you on the pod, man. This is gonna be fun. I think where we should start, what would be interesting. We keep it super conversational. I'm sure I've listened to a little bit of your pod and stuff too. So, I think that an interesting thing was that like your career path wasn't exactly traditional, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
And I read that you went from like owning an MMA studio to becoming like, a SaaS revenue leader. So when I read that, I imagine in the office of owner, you guys have like a Bruce Lee, Kyle Norton, like poster up there. And it's like, don't hit quota, get sidekicked or something like that, like then I'm like, that's probably why owner is doing so well, dude.
Exactly. Yeah, I was a sales rep. I was a rep and then a manager for a couple of years, and then I left the corporate world, and then I came back into tech.
Oh, interesting. And so you went and did an MMA gym like in between that, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, well, I started it on the side, like when after my first year and a half of working, because I'd always trained, and so I had like met my business partner at the time, who wanted to like open up a studio, and I was like, okay, like let's do it. Like I'll be the business guy, and so I did it on the side for like a year or two, and then did it full time for like a year and a bit, and then just realized I'm like, oh man, running a small business is rough. It's tough.
Yeah.
And I just missed sales. Like that's really like, that's my calling. That's what I like to do more than anything, is build teams and coach and teach. And so then when I came back, I knew I needed to be in tech. So
I will. So during COVID, I did boxing. We were in Mexico, like throughout COVID, the wife and I, and
Nice.
the big boxing culture, and so we I got a boxing coach, right? I'm like, okay, well, all
Mm-hmm.
the gyms are closed. I'm gonna get this guy, and he's gonna come over, and we're gonna like box, And the first week, he goes, "Hey, we're gonna get in the ring with a guy," and I go, "Dude, it's my first week." And I'm like, dude, like, you want me to get my ass beat like the first week, And he goes, and this is a lesson that I like, just a life lesson that's a good reminder. He's like, dude, to learn, you got to get beat up. Like that's just
Yeah.
you kind of got to like fail and get beat up at times, and like that's how you're gonna learn. We can train all day, but if you don't actually get in like the ring, nothing's gonna happen. And I'm like, oh my God. So, dude, every Friday for 4 years, I'm not kidding, he made me get in the ring with someone. And it would be like these kids that have been boxing for like
Yeah.
sometimes
Forever.
like 16-year-olds since they were like 8, and like they like just whoop me. Like I would get like we wear some guarding or whatever, but
Yeah.
still, man,
Headgear.
they'd get in there and like punch me in the nose. I'd be, I'd like have to keep camera off on the calls and all that. So that was a good lesson and kind of reminder, especially like in the sales role where you're, getting, let's call it beat up in a way where you're getting a bunch of no's, right? And you're
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
beat up
Emotionally beat up.
mentally. Yeah, emotionally beat up, exactly. But um yeah, so super interesting. But for you, are you still training and like doing that
No,
like
I had 2 knee surgeries, almost a back surgery, and was just like always beat up. And at some point, I was just like, I couldn't. I just don't have like any cartilage in my left knee now, and so no matter what I did, it would like catch and click and then swell, and so training training became like a lot less fun. And
yeah, it's
I'm
just like a
not good at and I'm not good at like doing stuff casually. So I could probably train and just like take it easy, and you know
yeah.
I just don't have that gear in me. And so and this is what happened when I went back to training after my second knee surgery. I was just, like I would get moving, and then the intensity would pick up, and I like don't have an off switch. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, like something catches again, my knee swells up, and then I'm like limping around for 2 days just because um yeah, I like would aggravate something. So yeah,
Yeah.
I hung up the gloves. I'll still go in and like to a Muay Thai class and just like play around. We did a class with my leadership team when they were here. Like that's fine, but like I'm a jujitsu guy. Like I want to wrestle and I want to do jujitsu, and like that's the sport that's most challenging for my body now. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I like ride a Peloton and lift weights, and
You're official tech pro, dude.
well, I'm like a middle aged dad is what it is. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll
Same, man. Same.
I'll do
Yeah.
triathlon in the summer,
Yeah.
but like not super serious because I travel too much. And if you want to like be serious about it, you got to like really put in the hours, and I just don't have those hours. So for me, it's like I'm on like a longevity program. It's
Yeah.
the Peter
Yeah.
Attia, Huberman, Galpin style program,
Yeah.
which is great. I've never felt stronger and healthier in my life, which is great. I just
Yeah.
I don't have a sport now, which is a bummer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the triathlon will keep you busy. I've done a couple Ironmans, and like I'm gonna do another one in November because before I became a dad, I was like, all right, I'm gonna do an Ironman like for my son, so I can like prove like I'll do anything for my son, or I have this like weird thing, and I'm like,
Yeah,
and and I'm like, well, we're having another son in September, so I'm like, shit, I have to do another one because like that wouldn't be fair.
that's funny.
And I'm like, yeah, but I'm gonna do this one a lot more chill, where I'm not like trying to finish in a record time. I'm just gonna try and finish it, because last time it kills your body, right? Like it wrecks. You're wrecked for like 2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
It's just intense, man. But okay, let's get into some go to market sales stuff. All right. So one thing I also read about, I want to hear about this because this takes a lot of speaking of MMA and cojones and all that fun stuff. Um, the leaky bucket fixed. So one thing that I kind of looked at is that you mentioned the company had a leaky bucket, and you let go of half of the sales team in your first 45 days, which is also like obviously a really hard decision. and you started saying no to a lot of potential customers, which sounds like super counterintuitive to a startup, right? You're like, wait, why would you say no to a startup? So like walk us through that bold call, man, and you know, what other startups can learn about focusing on the right customers early on. I think this is something that a lot of people make a huge mistake on.
Yeah. And there's two ways to answer this question. Because I think it's a good example of where I think revenue leaders and CROs need to focus themselves. So let me answer the question sort of at a higher level of abstraction,
Yeah.
and then we can talk about the details of
Yeah.
that decision. So one of the things that I think CROs struggle with the most, in especially in the eyes of founders and board members, is they have a really hard time thinking about anything outside of the close one number. All they care about is the close one number, and nothing else really matters. And if you are a C-suite executive, if you want to be like a CRO and not a VP of sales, this is one of the three biggest changes you can make. Is being able to think more holistically about the business, and seeing your role as generating enterprise value and not just hitting a sales number. And generating enterprise value means closing customers and compounding revenue over a very long period of time. Because if you close a bunch of deals, and in an SMB case, they like churn in the first 90 days, or in an enterprise context, they're churning after the first year, you're just on a hamster wheel, and you're not really going to get anywhere. And even if they don't churn after year one, if they're not really happy customers, then you can't build word of mouth momentum. And it's always been important. And in a world where it is so easy to start a company and write code and build software, like in this AI era, what is going to enable you to be differentiated is much more challenging. And so like word of mouth, customer satisfaction, and like market momentum are more important than ever. And so that is just like the big change that I think people need to make. And for me, I learned this lesson as a first-time VP of sales. I made the same mistakes everybody does. I was super focused on just the sales number and didn't think as broadly as I should have. Learned that lesson, and then at Shopify, a thing that people commented on is like how holistically I thought about the business. And this is still feedback I get from my boss here and the board. It's like, wow, you just like we don't see a lot of sales leaders that think about all these other things. And so if you want to go from like VP sales to CRO, like this is the big change you need to make. And an example of that is the situation you're talking about, where we were churning like 30% of signups in the first like 60, 90 days. And so,
Wow.
there was such strong desire from the market that we were sort of growing despite that. But it's just so many wasted calories. It's so much wasted effort to close a bunch of deals that are churning, because then your reps waste time on it, and it's not accretive. It's not really building enterprise value. Then your launch team spending time on it, and your CS team gets dragged into a bunch of like problem solving for crappy fit people, and your product team it's just sand in the gears, because you're not thinking about anybody but your own team. And so I saw that even before I started, when I was just advising Adam.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the first things I tried to address, and we cleaned it up. And yeah, it was difficult at the time, and led to like an uncomfortable first board meeting.
Yeah, I bet, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
you come in and you kind of just like rip the Band-Aid off. You pull like a Elon Twitter move, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like, hey, my first month at the company we closed less than the month before, and then my second month at the company we closed even less than that. And like that doesn't look awesome, but I knew I had enough time and trust, and I had communicated it. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. This is what
Yeah.
where we're going to end up. And I had confidence that like once I had cleaned it up, we would be able to grow in a more healthy manner. And by the time we hit my third month, we were now then closing like more deals, and the quality was so much higher that actually the value generated for the company was drastically better than what it was 90 days before. and we've basically just been like up and to the right like crazy since then.
Dude, yeah, it's this is like the epitome of that, like you got to slow down to speed up kind of thing.
Slow is smooth and smooth is fast is an old jiu-jitsu saying that the Navy SEALs
Yeah,
use as well now. Yeah. Big time.
yeah. Oh, did that come from jiu-jitsu? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay. Because I've heard. I didn't know that was that came from originated from jiu-jitsu. That's all.
Like
Yeah.
Japanese jiu-jitsu, like hundreds of years ago. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like the what's that stuff that people do with like the moves and they like the breathing? What's that called? Do you know what I'm talking
There's
about?
a lot of different things. There's like Aikido and Tai Chi and
Yeah, Tai Chi,
yeah,
man.
Tai Chi's Chinese, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that is China. That's right. But there's all that stuff, which is awesome. Man, that's crazy. Yeah, and that, like I said, that takes a lot of cojones, right? Because you're like, how do you keep people kind of in line? Because I'm sure your founder, right, who's I think a first time founder or younger, right, and like they see that and they're probably like, what the f?
And you just got to
I
communicate. No, he
you
never
just got
said what the f. No,
no. Okay,
no.
great. Yeah.
You have to communicate. That's the whole thing. If you can clearly architect a plan, a vision, and you explain why you're doing what you're doing, and I gave him the heads up. I'm like, hey, like we're gonna clean a bunch of this stuff up. I'm gonna change the deal qualification rules. I'm gonna tighten the screws on it, and it's probably gonna mean less deals. And he understood, like very well that was an issue for the business and why we needed to fix it. So no, he never batted an eye. Yeah, he wanted things to turn around quickly, and we were early in our relationship, and so certainly like Adam was keeping close tabs. He's like, I hope I hope this is gonna work.
Yeah, of course.
I hope he can pull it off. But yeah, he had full trust and support. I think like that first board meeting when I presented, I'm like, okay, the sales number's gone down 2 months in a row, but like look at the deal quality, look at the like sticky revenue coming out of it. And I remember, and I talk about this with Jason Lemkin on the podcast I did with him on my podcast.
Yeah.
Where we talk about this story. I'm like, do you remember our first board meeting? And he didn't really. I was like, so I presented all this stuff and he was like, yeah. He's like, it's not revenue now yet though. He's like, so I get it. He's like, it's a great story. I love the story you're telling, but like, it's not revenue. So like, let me know when it's revenue. And I've looked up to Lemkin so I've been in tech. I started reading Lemkin's stuff in 2014, I think. And he was one of the most influential people for me figuring out this whole SaaS tech thing. And I was really excited to work for a company where he was on the board. Like meeting him for the first time, I was like, holy crap, like this is Jason Lemkin. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And trying to play it cool, but like inside I was like,
but like you're a fanboy. You're like,
this is sweet.
I'll never drop kick you, Lemkin. Don't worry.
Yeah. And, because I learned so much from him. And so hearing that from him, I was like, oh my God, Jason Lemkin just said like, yeah, cute story. Show me the revenue. And then the next month it turned around, and then the next board meeting was awesome. And he gave me credit and was super great. But yeah, like that put, I had some butterflies getting that feedback. But, he gave that feedback because it was good feedback, and he's a type of guy that is a straight shooter. And, like I always know if he's telling me good stuff, he means it. He's not blowing smoke, and he's gonna like help push me. And I deeply appreciate that about him. And I appreciate like so much of what he's provided for Owner and for me personally. But it was a tough one.
That's well, like just thinking about this is kind of scary. Like it kind of gives me anxiety just thinking about it, because you're making that decision, because we're kind of talking about decision making right now, right? And like making that decision, and you have a good idea, like, hey, DQing is good, hey, what, like all these things we always talk about, but like, were you just 100% confident, or how did you, I'm sure in your head you had a little thing like, holy shit, what if this doesn't work?
you're
Yeah.
never 100% confident,
Yeah.
right? Like we're always playing a game of probabilities. And even if you're
Yeah.
80% confident in a decision, that's great. Like I
Yeah.
encourage everybody to read Annie Duke's book, Thinking in Bets.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
You're
That's a great one.
always like assessing the world and trying to discern probabilities and payoff and then make the highest expected value decisions. And so was I completely certain that that would work out right away or fast enough for it to not get uncomfortable for me? Like, no, absolutely not. You can't predict the future, but I knew it was the right thing for the business, and you just got to keep. This is another thing that I think people struggle with. Um, people who are frustrated that their CEO won't make them CRO and they're stuck at VP of sales. Um, you have to make decisions for the best of the company, and you have to put yourself second sometimes. And it's really easy to make personally optimized decisions, and maybe I could have played that a little different and strung it out and like still closed some crappier deals and like so the number looked better while I figured out the other stuff. Like, yeah, but it wasn't the right thing for the business. And so I think you know making the hard call, putting yourself second, and just like prioritizing enterprise value, um it's difficult. And oftentimes like CROs get in, and VPs of sales get into this weird like everybody's out to get me mindset, and you feel like you need to be in self-preservation mode. But the counterintuitive insight is like you putting yourself into self-preservation mode, and this mode of everybody's out to get you is actually what ends up getting you fired. Because people don't think that you have the company's best interest at heart, and they don't see that in your decisions, and then you end up being somebody that they don't feel like they can fully trust. You need, like your revenue leader is one of the most important people in the business, and if you don't have absolute massive trust in that person to make enterprise value maximizing decisions, then yeah, it's that's like not a great place to be. So you got to put
Yeah.
yourself out there intuitively.
Yeah, like what running Distribute right now, running a company. I'm dealing with something like this right now, right? Where it's like we're obviously like revenue's doing pretty well. We're trying to grow, and then like some companies are like, hey, buy on the startup world to get some more traction too. You want to get a certain revenue number so that you can raise and have leverage. The whole
Yeah.
game, right? And something we're struggling with is I'm like, okay, we need to get a little more revenue so we can raise. And while doing that, I talked to some companies. They're like, well, if you buy us, we'll buy you. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, this, I get it's part of the game, man, but like, this just doesn't seem like what's right for the business other than just being a number, And it's like, then you guys churn in a year, or like, we don't get value out of yours, we churn, and then you get pissed. And so you churn, and it just seems like this like downward spiral. And I've just made a rule with my team, like, we don't do that. Like
No.
they either see the value or they don't, like,
And that's the key thing. Like they got to see the value. If that customer is not, if they don't have a problem you can solve, and they're not going to be highly engaged to drive adoption, because like you're a GTM tool, like you need reps to go create deal rooms and like
yeah,
use it in their funnel. And if you don't have the interest or excitement or engagement, then you won't get it. And yeah, it's revenue you don't have now, but once you're a seed, if you guys are pre-seed and you're raising a seed, but if you're like a seed stage company and now you've bled out like 15% of these like questionable customers, then all of a sudden that's the problem for you into
yeah,
your next round. You're like, well, like especially in GTM tech,
yeah,
well, if you don't have good retention rates, then like what is this business? And it's just a future, it's a future problem.
exactly.
So much of success in life is being able to uh, defer the short term in favor of the long term. It's everything is the marshmallow test. And
Yeah,
so
I heard a great quote. I forget who said it, so I want to credit whoever it was, but they were like, "Be long term greedy,"
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
It's like be long term greedy, not short term greedy. Be long term greedy, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting way of putting it. Like thinking long term. Yes, you want the best for you and what you're building and all that, but like you got to do it in a long-term way. Right. Which is super interesting. So that's always stuck with me. And that was years ago when I read that. And I'm like, oh, it's good to be long-term greedy. Like, or it was like short-term impatient, long-term greedy, right? Or something like that, where it's like short-term, like you want to get things done, yes, but be long-term greedy. Don't be greedy in the short term, be greedy in the long. It's something like that, but that sticks with me. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. Like get done what you need to get done, but also don't lose sight of like how this is going to affect you in the long run,
Yeah.
you know?
And it's really hard
Yeah,
because
it's discipline, man.
yeah, you have to be super disciplined. But you could say this about founders, you could say this about sales reps, you could say this about sort of anybody wanting to accomplish anything, being having the mindset where you are like impatient day to day with your action, like
Yeah.
you are going at things with urgency and speed every single day, but being uh, patient with the results and understanding that like inputs and skill development, all these things compound over time. Um, that's a hard lesson to learn. But if you just like do the right things day to day and you execute and you put in the effort and you have a learning diligence, you will always get there in the end. It might take you a little while, but you will
Yeah.
get there for sure.
Yeah. And I saw a phrase associated with you. I forget where you said. I think it was on Saster or Jason tweeted it from y'all's conversation, and it was revenue leaders need to run towards bad news.
Yeah,
I
Jason
think
said that actually.
did Jason say? Okay, I wasn't sure if that was Jason. I was listening. I was like, was that Jason said that?
But that's another example of something
Yeah.
short term difficult, long term extremely beneficial. Yeah, in the short term, in this conversation, it's going to be pretty difficult to tell the board that you missed the number, you lost your best rep, you like, you know, you booked revenue you shouldn't have booked. Like those are difficult conversations to have. But in the long term, those are critical conversations to have because again, it's trust. And if you start to lose trust with your executive, with your board, like long term, you're absolutely cooked.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the best sales leaders I've seen, going back to this, like when they see a problem, they do run towards it, but they're also pretty chill about it. Like, and the worst ones I've experienced, I won't name anyone, but they see it. Everything's a fire. Everything's like a fire, and it's like, whoa, 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 like not everything's a fire, man. So yeah, I've kind of seen that. It's like chill out and know that like, hey, we're gonna look at it, but it's also like we're not gonna blow everything up because of it. Everything's a problem, and you're just constantly dealing with problems. Is kind of how I look at like
Yeah,
business, right? You're just always solving the next one.
yeah.
Uh,
Something I say to my team there, especially when stuff goes wrong, is like it's tongue in cheek. Well, what did you expect? Did you
yeah,
expect it all to go right? Did you expect it to be easy? It's like
yeah,
no, no. Okay, well, did you expect there to be problems along the way of trying to build a generational company? It's like yeah, for sure. I expected there to be like ups and downs. Like okay, well then this is just sort of an expected bump in the journey and let's go handle it. And so like if you can help people zoom out and understand that it's like, hey, these are just problems that we have to deal with, and these are all opportunities to improve the business and ourselves, and just like get after it and try to do it. The other like paired thought with this oftentimes that I talk about is having an abundance mindset. It's like when things go wrong or you're down on the month, you can't start to act out of desperation and scarcity, where it's like, oh, we don't have the pipeline. I don't know how we're going to get there. Da, 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 da. Like that mindset and way of being like comes out in everything you do. It comes out in front of a customer. It comes out in front of your
yeah,
team, and that scarcity mindset and that panic ends up being the reason that you miss.
yeah,
The thing going wrong is not why you miss. Your reaction to that thing is why things get bad. And so instead you want to have an abundance mindset. It's like, okay, look, we expect things to go wrong. We expect there to be
hmm,
hiccups in, our biggest deals or in marketing or in, my best rep gets sick for a week. Like, that's part of what we do. That's why it pays well. That's why it's fun and challenging. But you just have to attack every day and every month and every quarter with an abundance mindset, with like an optimism that you will figure it out, because that bleeds
Yeah.
through for everything. Not in the woo woo, that movie or that book, The Secret, where it's like, oh, just ask, just like
Yeah.
ask the
Yeah.
universe
Yeah.
for it, and it'll. No. That's not at
Yeah.
all what I mean. I'm talking about like the neuroscience backed impact of having an optimism and abundance, because that makes you like execute on the things that will get you there. It makes you operate with people in a way that's conducive to getting to your goals. That abundance mindset is everything. Like yesterday, we set a crazy goal for ourselves in April, and we had like big ground to make up. Like arguably, it was the biggest gap that we've had in a while.
Yeah.
And we could have gone into the last day of the month. We're SMBs, so it's like the end of every month is like the end of a quarter. And we could have gone in and been like, oh my God, like we have so far to go. Like this is going to be so difficult. But I was like, okay, look at all the meetings we have on the calendar. Look at all the open pipe. Look at some of the whales that we have to be able to get there. And we ripped off the biggest single day in the company's history. We like set a record for new ARR by like over 8, I'll call it 9%, and like just shredded it. And people were closing. I ran my last call of the day. My last call of the day ended at 11:57 p.m. last night, and the rep and I were in the office, and he closed it in Salesforce at like 1:15. And like people on the West Coast, people in our San Francisco office, like Daniela closed the last deal of the month at 11:30 or at 1:30 a.m. Eastern time. So it was like 10:30 in San Francisco, and they had all gotten to the office at 7 a.m. yesterday, ripping their first demos, because they take some East Coast demos and whatever. Yeah, like one of my reps, his first call was at 6:30 in the Uber. He closed the deal, got credit cards, and then him and I were on a call with like a whale deal at 7 a.m. his time. And so like
we need a
that's
Bruce
abundant.
Lee Kyle poster in the office, dude. This
Yeah.
is happening. We're gonna send you one. This is happening, man.
Yeah, but that's the abundance mindset. Like with my team, we call it can't miss mentality. Like we have the can't miss mentality. It's like no matter what happens, we will get there. And it's wild what you can accomplish when you go in to the last week of the month, the last day of the month with that mentality. Like it's pretty cool,
dude. It's not in anything, you going and you doing martial arts, I did boxing, like everything is like I played tennis too, like, and this is going to sound very cheesy, and I know people know this, but it really is always like the mindset is crazy, man. I remember when I was at Outreach, our CRO at the time, Matt Millen, I don't know if you've met Matt, but
I haven't. No.
He was one of the early SVP of sales or CRO, but he used to be Tony Robbins' right-hand man.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Matt Millen. You should chat. He's running Reggie now. You've probably seen Reggie.
Oh yeah.
So
I should have him on the pod then.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, I can intro you. Yeah, he's a great guy to have. He used to be a race car driver too. Like this guy's the man. Like yeah, dude. He's super interesting. Have them on. So Matt Millen, he sent a few of us at Outreach to Tony Robbins. Like
that's
the
cool.
4-day. Yeah, like the 4-day
awaken the giant within.
Awaken the giant. Unleashed, I think was what I was.
Oh, Unleashed. Yeah.
Unleashed the giant within. And
I've seen that documentary. It's great.
Oh, that's like the 8-day one or something, right? Or does he have another one for? Because there's like the 4-day, then there's like the 8-day one or whatever.
I think it's whatever.
Yeah, whatever. So he sends me and a few other people, and when he sends me, I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like this just seems woo woo, like. Whatever, and like I'm not really into this stuff. Like I'm just gonna fucking work hard, like But dude, I went and like it was one of the coolest things I've ever done. Like I literally just felt this transition mentally after being there, where I came back and I felt like I could conquer the world, and nothing changed except this, and it was like. And dude, it was a stadium full of people. Like that's a whole different topic on how he can do that. That's like a magic power. But like this dude literally has like some like the fact that you can do that to a stadium of people is wild.
Yeah, yeah.
And you come out, and the third day, at some point, he makes you yell and do all this crazy stuff,
Jump
right?
around and yeah.
Jump around, yell, and you're not allowed. And the one rule that Matt told us is you're not allowed to sit next to anyone you know. Because we all went,
Oh,
yeah, because we all went. He's like, you're not allowed to sit next to each other. He's like, that's my one rule. I'm gonna pay
wow.
for you to do this. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, why? But now I get it, because they make you talk about stuff and open up and do and like yell, and you don't want to have like this people, these people that you already know
Yeah,
and
yeah,
try
yeah.
and fit that mold and like not, and so did that, and then I came out and I'm like, okay, I'm a believer in this now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm a believer. And then you see thousands of people that volunteer for free to help at these events. And you're like, okay, this guy is like got some crazy, like it must
Yeah.
work.
People should watch the
And
Netflix documentary.
I
I
haven't watched it. Yeah, believe it
It's
or not,
good.
I need
It's
to.
all the behind the
Yeah.
scenes and how he does it all and his process. And because I was never a Tony Robbins guy, I thought it was a little cheesy. And then
Yeah.
he was on a podcast. It was either the Chris Williamson podcast or yeah, like one of the ones that's in my rotation. And I was like, huh, yeah, this guy's pretty like he's got some interesting stuff to say. This was maybe
Yeah.
6 months ago because he was doing a free version of it online,
Hmm.
and so I listened to some other pods that he had done, and then watched the documentary. I was like, okay, like it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he the interesting the thing that I thought was most interesting is the scientists that have followed his people around and looked at sort of the lasting impact. And it's basically like these are like large scale control trials of people who go versus people who don't, and like on depression and anxiety and their life happiness and all this stuff. And it's really material. So
Yeah.
it was cool.
Dude.
Like even I brought in this company called Dream Fuel this month to
Hmm.
do a visualization exercise with my sales team. So
Hmm.
like I did a prep call with them, talked about what we were accomplishing, and then we did somatic breath work, uh, and then this like 20-minute visualization of like what we were trying to accomplish that month. And uh, a bunch of us were in the office, like all just laying on the ground in the office
Hmm.
doing this crazy breath work, like and
Everyone's like, what the hell is this guy
everybody's
doing?
just like in their own world. And then we got up off the ground and people were like, that was crazy. Like, wow, I feel like be like I'm ready to take over the world. And we carried a lot of that intensity through the month. And yeah, like
Yeah.
mindset is everything. And I know people are really I was always skeptical about it. I was
Same.
like skeptical about meditation and all this stuff, but I read Search Inside Yourself, which is the book by the guy who built the Google mindfulness program, and he's an engineer, so he explains all the neuroscience behind it and sort of the system of action. And so I was like, okay, that was 7 or 8 years. That was probably 8 years ago. So like meditation was like definitely coming to prominence, but it was early days.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been so impactful for my life for sure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, and it's you have Matt on, man. He'll tell you like his stuff's directly from Tony, and so he'll
Yeah,
tell you stuff, and you're like, okay, it like fucking clicks.
yeah,
You're just like it like pumps you up because you're like that is so right. Like and you're like if Tony taught you that, like it's probably like the thing you need to know.
that's awesome.
It's awesome, man. Yeah. All right, dude. Let's get tactical here. So now let's dive in. Let's get a little more tactical. So you're building a go-to-market, obviously, for small businesses, owner.com. It's like the HubSpot Shopify for restaurants, if I
Yeah,
understand correctly, right?
Shopify for
So
restaurants. Yep.
Shopify for restaurants. Yeah, coming from Shopify makes total sense. Okay. So we're in this world, you can build anything, right? Like if you want to build for SMB businesses and not just like one person founders or stuff, but like small businesses, a few seats, a few people running it. And cause I'm actually working on this myself right now. So I'm actually like trying to get free consulting from you at the same time.
Okay, good.
So yeah. How do you get through the cold, like, how do you get through the cold start problem, right, in this market? One thing you mentioned that was super interesting was word of mouth momentum. And it sounds like you put a huge emphasis on that. But like, walk us through, like, if you were to start today with a company that's targeting SMB, let's say, in my world, 20 to 500 employees or 250 employees or
Yeah.
whatever, how would you go about thinking about it from a tactical perspective?
And you're talking about winning your first customers, right?
Yeah, winning, let's say winning the first 20, 50 customers or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
So in the very early innings where it's founder-led sales, it's really about those first concentric circles. So like there's people, like you're coming out with an awesome network from outreach, obviously.
Yeah.
And so who are all of the people that know and trust you enough to basically just like take a bet on you because they like you, they want to do you a favor, they trust that you might build something good, because most of the time your product sucks in the early days. It's like riddled with bugs. It's feature poor compared to everything else that's in the market. Like you're running an uphill battle. And so people aren't making like rational value optimization decisions when they partner with a tiny startup. They are partnering with you because they trust that you can build something great and you have some unique insight that you're building towards. Like there's some reason why you've built distribute in a way that is different than all of the competitors in this category, because there's a few of them. And so you need people that are like mission driven, that go, yeah, I've been frustrated by the fact that all of these other deal rooms take so much time and effort, and this is like AI powered and it's going to do all of these things. Or this is controlled by RevOps, but my platform is actually in the hands of the rep. I'm just sort of making stuff up, but there's some point of view that you have about this category that needs to have differentiation, so that when you explain it to people, some of those people will be like, yeah, I've been saying that's how it should be. Like when I'm looking at GTM tech, like there's some reason why I'm like not satisfied with the tooling that's out there in the world today. Like SalesLoft and Outreach, I've been using for like a decade now, and SalesLoft in particular. But for cold calling centric SMB sales orgs, there's a bunch that's left to be desired. And so if a really small company that is a deficient product calls me and is like, hey, what we hear from people who are 90% cold call based is that these tools are too much obsessed with the email and they're not as call centric. And we want to give you a product that actually gives you like dynamic call scripts and better call dispositioning and more like assisted call data. And I'd be like, great. Even though that product is way worse in almost every single way than SalesLoft, like that fits my view of the world in a way that I would make a change.
Wow. And there you go, guys. If you're listening, there's a product idea for you.
I'm trying to give this away. I'm giving this idea away constantly because I want somebody to go build this thing so that I can be a first customer and be an advisor and tell them like,
Yeah.
I've actually written a PRD for this. Because one, I sent the PRD to SalesLoft. I'm like, hey, can you build this? Like, can you build this
Yeah.
for me? And I've sent it to some founders, and we're thinking about just like actually building it ourselves internally. But that would be like a philosophy. That's a point of view about the market that is outside of like buy my deal room product because it's better. Because it's impossible to make the argument that any one product is better necessarily, especially when you're a seed stage company, when the product tends to be it is at its worst. So I think, so here are the keys to winning your first customers. So one is start with your most like close network, your closest concentric circle of people who trust you and will like do it just because they like you. You come from outreach, so you got a bunch of those people out there. Then you can go out to the like next ring out there, and that's friends of your friends or friends of your advisors or friends of your board members and investors that you've got like a big head start. You can close those deals. Even though there's product gaps. So this is like concept one is like think about these concentric circles and start with like the highest
Closest.
trust group first
The
before
first
you
degrees. Yeah.
ever think about like cold outbounding. You don't really want to cold outbound your first 20 customers.
Mm-hmm.
If necessary, maybe, but you want to avoid it. Then 2 is be really sharp about your point of view and just go find people that have an alignment of that point of view. We think that other deal room tools in the market like are
Way too
not good,
complicated.
or they miss
Yeah.
the point. They miss the
Yeah.
point. They're too complicated. And so
Yeah.
because of this key insight, we've built this in this way. And some group of people are like, well, no, I actually like it to be complicated because we're really sophisticated and I have a RevOps team that manages it and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, okay, that's never going to be a buyer for you. But some people
Yeah.
are going to be like, yeah, I
Yeah.
used X and Y. I'm not naming them because I know people at a bunch of these companies, but I've used
Yeah.
this company and
Yeah.
it is too complicated and I just want something
Yeah.
simple. And you're like, well, we're the simple deal room. And those
Yeah.
people will buy you even though you have feature gaps compared to those other people. So that's number 2. And I call that point of view positioning. So like,
Yeah.
so go to market with a point of view. Don't go to market with like my product is better.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 is like make absolutely certain that your first customers are massively successful. And you got to do all of the unscalable stuff. You got to spend people hours and your time and stuff that's like not in product. You're doing like weird mechanical Turk stuff behind the scenes, but you just have to make sure that your early customers are as successful as they can be. And even if there's bumps along the way, as long as those early customers feel like you as the founder and you as the early team are really going above and beyond to try to help them win and help them be successful, they'll give you a lot of grace.
Mm-hmm.
They'll give you a lot of
Mm-hmm.
grace. Like
Yeah.
I partner with a lot of early stage tech companies because I like to be at the cutting edge. And yeah, some of them, it's a little rough at the beginning.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if the founders are like responsive and they're swarming their teams around it and they're keeping me in the loop, I have a lot of patience because
Yeah.
I know what it's like to build an early stage company and I understand that's part of the deal. And so I think like swarming those early customers to make sure they're successful
It's huge.
is massive. And if you can do those 3 things, you can build yourself enough momentum to start then being smart about, okay, so now I have these customers who are all of the people that know this company or this CRO or this VP of sales. And then I'll be like, hey, like we're working with Andy doing this thing. And then so now that these concentric circles keep growing and growing, and you can avoid cold outbounding as much as you can for as long as you can,
Yeah.
would be
That's
how.
interesting that you say that, right? Because like a couple things. Oh, so two points on this, which is Udi from Gong, obviously,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I sat across from him at dinner like 3 weeks ago.
oh yeah, Udi's great. And one thing that I consider him a mentor of mine. I'm always hitting up for positioning and stuff. And one thing that he mentioned, he's when I had him on the pod a couple months ago, he's like, it's better to be different than it is to be better.
Yes. And his whole
Right?
new book is about this. He was
Oh,
talking.
really? Does he talk about it in the book? I haven't read. Sorry, Woody. I need to get the book, but I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
I need to. Yeah.
He talked to me about some of the key insights at this dinner. I was like, this is exactly how I think about positioning. And
Yeah,
obviously he
dude.
knows he's awesome. He built an entire category, and Gong has like an incredible brand.
Yeah, they're one of the best, man. Like,
We
yeah.
Yeah. So he has different language for the same thing that I say. Point of view positioning or radically
Yeah.
transparent sales is like sort of the language I use around it. It's like just tell people what you're good at, tell people what you're not good at, and tell people why certain customers choose you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they can
You know,
sort themselves.
yeah. And what you're saying about it definitely validates because we did because I'm always, I'm like maniacally obsessed with positioning and like figuring this out. And, you know, what I did is I came in, I was being a little soft, I think, on like how we were different. And like 3 weeks ago, I totally changed it. I'm like, look, we're different. Here's why. And like the way I position is like, if you want a complex deal room where you can mess with the margins and have reps try and become web designers, great, use those. But if you want something that's more like a document, something they already need to know how to use and use that to make a deal room, that's where we'll win. And
Yeah.
that for them is like, no shit. Like it sounds way
Yeah.
easier, right? right? Like
for some people, for the people,
for some people, yeah,
for the right
yeah,
people. And so this this radically transparent selling methodology that I teach, you lead with that. So like the first thing I do when I get on a call, I'm like, okay, so we'll dive into a bunch of stuff. I got some questions for you, but like, let me just map out what the heck is owner so that we know where we're what we're talking about. And so, and that is after actually counterintuitive. A lot of the time people like don't want you to pitch right away. They want you to do all the discovery. It's like, no, I actually want to give them the elevator pitch up front so that they have context for the discovery I'm asking.
yeah,
So I'll be like, owner does 5 things. And I actually drop the features, which again, people will tell you not to do. But I find people's elevator pitches like, we're a next generation platform to accelerate revenue acquisition through the improvement in buyer experience. Like, dude,
yeah,
what? Like, just tell me what you do. Oh, you're a deal
yeah,
room. Thank you. You could have just
yeah.
like said deal room as opposed to like next
Hmm.
generation like customer experience platform. Like
Yeah,
get out of here with that. And so I will say at the top of my calls, there's like 5 things that owner does for a customer: build you a website, online ordering, email, text message marketing, blah, 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 blah. I will feature
clear
dump.
as hell.
I
Yeah,
was like, I feature dumped, even though like people will tell you not to feature dump. And then the thing I do is like, what's important to understand is like where we're different than everybody else in the category is you get less choice and flexibility on owner. You can't do custom fonts. You can't have like video embedded and do all sorts of crazy stuff. Like we make you fit into a box so that we can hyper optimize every single customer of ours uh, across thousands of individual restaurants. So when we run experiments on one set of 50 or 100 customers and find something that improves conversion rate or search rank, we're just going to make that change across every single customer without even asking you. And you got to be comfortable with that we're like pulling a lot of strings, but what you get in return is an army of literally the best software engineers in restaurant tech and some of the best restaurant marketing minds doing all of this stuff on your behalf. And that's why people make way more money on owner. Yeah, you don't get all the choice and flexibility of our main competitors, but you're just straight up going to make more money and you're going to do less work. And so you just have to decide, do I care about brand, and do I see myself as like a creative director artiste that wants to choose every little piece of their website, or do I just want a website that gets people to find me when they search for the best tacos in Austin and convert them to an order and then bring them back or again and again and like just
yeah,
like have money on autopilot. And people will be like,
man. Yeah,
well, like, actually, like we hired a graphic design firm and we've got this stuff and yada yada. I'd be like, cool, man. Like, it's honestly, I won't waste your time. Like, if that's what's important to you, like, I don't think you're gonna love this. and
yeah,
and
yeah,
people will be like, you know what, yeah, thanks for being straight up. Like, I actually think I think you're right. We can save the time. Or, and it's a little, it's not strip lining. I call it off ramping. But sometimes people will be like, no, 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 like, actually this is what we're looking for. Like, I get, we like, we have these design assets, but I'm just sick of doing it. I want to see. And then so the wrong customers off ramp right away, so you don't waste any of your time on them. And the right customers move forward with way more um, momentum and trust because you've been transparent and open with them. Um, I think it's a way better way to sell. You just have to have
yeah.
a good product. You have to have a good, like a legit product insight, or else it
Yeah.
doesn't really work.
Yeah, it's funny. You kind of gave me my pitch. Like it's like very similar, right?
Yeah.
For distribute, because that's what we're like. Hey, we're going to use AI. You're not going to be able to tinker with everything, and like if you want your reps tinkering with stuff, great. Then here you go. Many people don't want their reps tinkering with stuff, if we're being honest. So it's but if you want AI to use your call data and create the content for them, and them to create stuff easily, more like on a Notion doc meets Canva versus like a website builder, we're for you. And you know, something interesting I think that I thought of as we're here and we're in the last couple of minutes is I get a lot of questions like, what's the best sales books I could read?
Hmm.
Right. And going into this stuff and what you're talking about and what we're talking about. And what I always tell people and recommend is honestly, don't read any of the sales books. Read the copywriting books.
Big time. I read all the Dan Kennedy stuff back in the day.
Yeah. It's the copywriting books are the best sales books you're ever going to read, because it tells you how people consume information to be clear versus clever, right? Because everyone in SaaS today is trying to be clever, and it's like, no, dude, just tell them what it is. Like, for me, I'm like, it's a deal room, and people are like, some people still don't know what a deal room is, but like that's the closest thing to what we do, so we tie to it, right? But like, what do you do? And be clear versus clever, you know, starting with the problem, telling people why they shouldn't buy you, because psychologically you actually turn that into an advantage, right? Is kind of what you do. And so the way they break this down is like it's sales, dude. You know, and they're trying to basically create a piece of content that sells you without having to talk to a person.
Yeah.
So you can, if you actually think
the
about
old
it
school
like
sales
that,
letters. Yeah.
Yeah, old school sales letter. If you think about it like that, dude, it's like, this is logic. Dude, they used to do this without you needing to talk to someone. Like, I should probably study that.
Yeah.
You know, like, so if you do talk to them, and I actually use a lot of these frameworks in my decks or my pages and stuff. And I'll say like, hey, you know, all of my prompting, actually, here's my secret for all my content. I say, write like the best direct response writers: Dan Kennedy, Eugene Swartz, David Ogilvy. And I start there. Yeah, dude, that's how I do all my content.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never thought to use those as the mixture of experts or the panel of experts.
Yeah, dude, use those. Those are like, use those because they're direct response. And what are we doing? We're trying to get people to respond, literally.
Yeah, what's the most important thing in writing LinkedIn content? The hook.
And they'll
get
go
them to
through,
hit see more.
Yep, they do, and then the line after that, and then obviously they go, you know, and then they, you know, people don't skim or don't read, they skim, and then they decide to read, right? Like little tricks like that. So you want to make it skimmable and blah blah blah. So all these are built in. So when I prompt, I do it exactly like that, dude. And yeah, it's.
I'm gonna borrow this. This is great.
Yeah, borrow it. It's now everyone's gonna do it, and they're gonna see you and be like,
no one will do it. I've given away all of my secrets for years and years and years, and like it's hard to do.
1% of people do it. Yeah,
it's hard to do this stuff. You know, like people are always like, man, like you like give away a lot of what you're doing. Aren't you afraid your competitors are gonna like borrow your stuff? It's like, I've seen what my competitors are up to. Like, they couldn't execute their way out of a wet paper bag. Execution, like it's all about execution. Like, can you understand it in a level of depth to really make it sing? And not all of our competitors. Like, we have our larger, like our biggest competitors are really well-run businesses. And I have a ton of respect for it. But like the startups in our category, like, you know, I could give them my whole playbook and they couldn't run it.
Yeah. That's something you learn too, right? Is like, because I give away all like the exact emails I use and all that stuff and the templates. I give away. People are like, dude, same thing. And I'm like, I don't care. I'll tell them anything on the podcast. I literally reveal my dirt, you know, like tell them exactly how we're doing it. But it's like, it takes a special kind of person to like actually go and implement anything, you know, in a lot of cases. So, yeah, man. But well, hey, Kyle, this has been great, dude. Great combo. Amazing, man. If you're ever freaking down in Austin, let me know. We'll hang out. I'll let you know if we're in Toronto.